daily dose of TOK. So in this lesson, where we thought about the difference between propositional and non-propositional knowledge. So we started off with some flip learning activities which you did for homework. The tying your shoelaces task, quite a few people enjoyed trying to do that. Some of you watched this video about propositional knowledge, and there we had a little visit from our friend to justified true belief. Non-propositional knowledge, importantly, is not a justified true belief. And then some of you chose to have a look at a Poe conversation where we thought about some specific definitions. We shared these ideas from the 3 videos in the class as a team. So then we went on to have that discussion, and again, always trying to bring back TOK into real life ideas. So we had some 3 music videos and some local Cantonese pop love song videos for you to watch, and it asks you to consider what is the non-propositional knowledge that is generated in there. So we suggested the Queen Bohemian Rhapsody as the contextual situation and knowledge that you've got there, the Claude Debussy, the Moonlight, the sort of like the experiential knowledge, the aesthetic and perceptual knowledge of Hallelujah. So with non-propositional knowledge, it's really very important that cultural context here is very important. And that cultural context can vary over space, but it can also vary over time. So something like the Bohemian Rhapsody might have a very different meaning in 2024 than it did when it was first written. So then we went on to think about in a bit more detail using AI generated definitions of propositional and non-propositional knowledge. We try to improve those definitions a little bit more. This is artificial intelligence generated material, so we thought about trying to improve those definitions and making it a little bit easier to understand. On a note, this sort of thing generates lots of possibilities for your exhibition. For example, you could look at a theatre ticket or a rock concert ticket where you went to that concert and you felt emotionally moved by it. There was something that special happened in the audience. They are all sort of like contextually, culturally based, non-propositional knowledge that is being generated by that experience. So then we went on to think a little bit more detail in exactly what knowing is in the human sciences and how what knowing is slightly different in the human sciences when compared to the natural sciences. So we had a little think about Where's Wally, and I quite like that cartoon there. Is it possible you're really just hiding from yourself? That's very much a human science question, not really a question that the natural sciences could answer. So then again, AI assisted material. We took a deep dive into those different types of knowledge. You may have watched 1 or 2 of those videos, but specifically we looked at empirical knowledge and the role of empirical knowledge in the human sciences, interpretation and understanding. That's a really big one, and maybe you will be starting to understand with IB compared to GCSEs, there's a lot more interpretative understanding, a lot more critical thinking in the way that we think in IB compared to GCSE. Theoretical frameworks, we've also talked in the past about models. Yes, in human sciences we do use models, but goodness me, those pesky human beings, they mess up those lovely, smart, neat models when they are released into the real world. Reflexivity and subjectivity, everything we do in human sciences are prone to our biases. So much so that in some areas of human science we don't even try to remove those biases. That is part of it. We are observers from within. We acknowledge our biases and we present, we are comfortable with those biases, and we actually see that as a strength in some subjects. Practical implications. When we're applying knowledge, there should be practical implications. So ultimately, it's the goal of knowing and understanding in the human sciences is to make the world a better place. Well-informed policies. We have talked in the past what happens when you just try to apply a theoretical model to the human sciences. Doesn't always work. Sometimes there are really bad consequences of that. So there's that interaction between propositional and non-propositional knowledge. And then we moved on specifically to think about propositional and non-propositional knowledge in the arts. There's very much the feeling here that non-propositional knowledge is much more important in the arts. Through the context, maybe some of you looked at The She-Wolf from Jackson Pollock, and we thought about art does not convey any knowledge, art conveys propositional knowledge, and art conveys non-propositional knowledge. So we had to think about that, and personally, I would say that it would be number 2 and number 3. Yes, definitely there is knowledge in art. Some of it is propositional. My personal view on this one, particularly with abstract art, non-propositional knowledge is dominant. But we had some discussions about that, and I'm sure we had some disagreements over that. So that brings us to our lesson review. In this lesson, we looked at the difference between propositional and non-propositional knowledge. We compared the human sciences and natural sciences. The human sciences sit somewhere in between. Propositional and non-propositional knowledge are important. And then we started looking at the arts, and the suggestion here is actually what's most important in the arts is the non-propositional knowledge. Again, we can start to see that interaction between subjectivity and objectivity. It's not that the knowledge generated in the human sciences or the arts is less important or less significant than the natural sciences. It's actually a different type of knowledge, and it's important that we recognise that.